by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation CHOKMAH BINAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Our address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for all things, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thanking the Most High God for life. And I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with us and bless us. At this time, giving glory into his high and holy name for all that he does for us, and thanking him for another blessed Shabbat day, and also sending a Shabbat Shalom to everyone out there who will be listening to this on the Shabbat day or as the Shabbat day approaches. So early Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with you all and protect you. Hallelujah. So at this time, we're going to move straight ahead, and we're going to hear from one of my teachers and one of my mentors as he will go over Psalms 111 and the 49th Psalm, giving glory to the Most High God, being in coinciding with the portions of Matot Maseh that we went over on the Shabbat day, this past Shabbat day. So thank you the Most High God once again, and I introduce to y'all even Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great. Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respect to the platform on the D.C.B. channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Ariel and Saskar, the host Chief Uzael, to the princes, chiefs, Kohanim, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors, I greet you in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to start off with Adonai Septai Takofi Yagi Tilatheka, a law of my lips and mouth should declare that praise. Before the portions I'll be covering over, just highlighting some points in it, is referred to as matos and maseh. Maseh, and the chapters of matos in the book of Numbers comes from the 30th chapter of Numbers, 2nd verse, going to the 32nd chapter, 42nd verse. Maseh is from Numbers 33 rather, verse 1, all the way to 36:13, which concludes the book of Numbers, which we refer to as Bamidbar. We'll be dealing with the Torah that we'll be dealing with is from Maseh. I didn't get the Torah for we deal with the Torah for Maseh. Matos Torah was the first admonishment that I spoke on last week around this time. So of admonishment. So Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, the 4th verse to the 28th, and then you skip over to end on a good note, which is the 3rd chapter of Jeremiah, the 4th verse. On the Sephardic side, they do the exact same, Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, 4th verse to the 28th verse. Then they skip over to the 4th chapter and do verses 1 and 2. The Psalms that coincide with Matos would be Psalm 111, and the Psalm that coincide with Maseh is Psalm 49. All right, so before I jump into that, I'd like to make a response to a comment that one of the viewers had asked in reference to the city of refuge. It was like 6 cities, you know, instead of Makla, which is the cities of refuge, in the plural. And the question that was asked was, when one flees to this city of refuge and the avenger of blood come after him and try to catch up with him, is he able to defend himself? And sure, if he's on his way there, he's supposed to defend himself if the guy overtake him, because he's allowed a due process. One of the things is that it tells you about the guy who's a redeemer of blood for the nearest kinsman. So, you know, Goel Dam Hadam, which is the redeemer of blood, or a kinsperson in that sense. You know, his blood wax hot. He's running after you, and he's going to run harder because of a loss. You yourself, depending on the age, whatever the case is, you're going to do your best. I just want to focus on that a little bit. That's not going to be my main topic, but I just want to bring out some points, because sometimes we have this kind of connotation that everybody in the city of refuge is fugitives from a redeemer of blood. And that's not true. And everybody think of the city of refuge as some barren thing. But that's part of the major, you know, Levitical cities. Before you talk about the 48 cities that's added amongst the Levitical, amongst the tribes, that's divided amongst the tribe for the Levites. The 6, the cities, that 3 years was done on across the Jordan, and the other 3 supposed to be in the land. But the 3 across the Jordan themselves, those were cities for a manslayer who slayed an individual unaware, and it's for not only an Israelite, but could be a convert to our way of life, or a person that just happened to be sojourning in the land, passing through the land, and he doing some work, and he inadvertently, through ignorance, slay an individual, then he got to stay there too as well. So if and you got to believe in divine providence, if the Creator allowed the individual, and I'm not going to be on this topic long because you could discuss it more in depth with your various teachers, but if the Creator allowed a place for the guy to go that had no intent on killing his fellow human being, then you got to say, well, there must have been a divine will to a degree to allow that to go down like that. So the Creator allows this individual to flee there, and when he gets there, he got to go before a tribunal, a court of judges, to see and investigate, really, was it an inadvertent, what we call today an accident? You know, we used to use the term of ignorance, you know, because we didn't take the right precautions. So it was an accident, and that he didn't have malice against the individual, you know, in the past, in the near past. So, and he had to stay there. Whoever got there, you know, had to stay there for the length of time. Whoever was the high priest, they got to stay in that city until the high priest of that time died, if they found innocent. If they found guilty, they take him out, and the guy who actually was the redeemer of blood, he'd be the first to be able to put him to death for a family member that was slain. So, and I know I heard this story many times about, well, if the guy's a strong, big guy, and he said, look, I'm not going there. Well, Goliath was a big, strong guy, a champion of God, a Philistines. And one stone took him out with all that armor and sword and spear and javelin that he had and shield. One stone took him out. So the Creator, you know, in that sense, it's going to be hard to fight when you're wrong. It's going to be hard to win when you're wrong. And so your size, your capability in warfare means nothing in this case. You're told to go there, because now what you're doing is inviting a situation. Because when you think further, and I'm not, I said I was going to go into that much, but I'll just leave this point out. If you refuse to go there, when the Lord tell you to go there, and you don't try to explain it right there without going to the city of refuge, without an escort to the individual, then you actually inviting a situation. Because your intentions is, if they raise up against me because I know I didn't really meant to do it, I'm going to defend myself. And my plan in defending myself is to set an example to incapacitate this guy, indefinite, which is basically you have to kill him. So that wouldn't be a good move. But you could discuss it further with your teachers, and there's plenty of writers up in reference to that, commentaries on it. But that's not my focus today. So one of the things we deal with matos. Matos means tribes, and it also means a stick, a dry stick. All right, so you say, well, which one is it? And also got the word, tribes, there's another word for tribe, it's Shabbat. But when we say matos, it also means in the sense of more pedigree, bloodline in bed when you're talking about the tribes itself. And so the word for bed in Hebrew was mitah. Mitah is a bed. So, and the same word could be, beds. But that's just another thing to consider as we go forward. But when we look at this here, and I'm going to just read the beginning. It said, and Moses spoke unto the heads of the tribes of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord had commanded. When a man voweth a vow unto the Lord, or sweareth an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. All right, so only thing I'm going to focus on in that area there is that why is it that this is addressed to the heads of the tribe, where we talk about, we start coming and approaching vows earlier about, and when we offer up certain things and, donate certain things. But why is it now that it's just strictly addressed to the leaders first, before, and it's not really addressed to the congregation as a whole? Because like I said in the past, that leaders, when people gets a certain type of authority, they might make promises almost like politicians and say, I'm gonna do this and do that because I'm sort of the people champ, and I got the the juice to do this here, and don't follow through with their word, and they use and employ to God that if I do this, if you do this for me, I'll do that. The leaders tend to be more people more to cancel out what they say, and they should be, and they also are the ones should be held more accountable for what they say, simply because they're leading other people. So this is interesting that this is addressed to the leaders of the tribes of Israel. Now, normally, matos and maaseh is combined together. Maaseh, just an overall view, is journeys in a sense. All right, and I'm gonna get back to that in a minute, but I'm just gonna give you a highlight what the whole thing is, and then I'm gonna touch on a few topics within it. All right, so it talks about, it starts off with the vows of men and women. And we know the women's vows is subject to actually the, if she's in a father's house, or if she's married, the father or the husband got the last word whether her vow is binding or not when you hear it. But that's another story to be expounded upon by your teachers. And authority, only a divorcee and a widow their vows can be held without a man canceling it out. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of variations in reference to that. So I was discussing stuff like that with Maisha, different things, but it's not as simply cut and dry as it might appear where I'm presenting it now. So that you might want to discuss more when you go over these chapters and look at every word within it. All right. Then it goes into the Israelites defeated the Midianites and enslaved Balaam. Now, we know automatically this was a powerful individual. He was on par with power like Moses himself. He had the power of the spoken word. And yet, when we defeat the Midianites, we also slay Balaam, who had all that power. Not only that, the Midianites were related to Moses. And so how would that feel? And one of the terms that's used about avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites, where Moses speaks to the people and say, arm yourself amongst you, and of course you're going to execute, the Lord's vengeance on the Midianites. All right, so that's another area that went on in here. The purification by fire and water. That's when you deal with what they can refer to as kashrut laws of utensils. We know what we're not supposed to eat and what's considered clean by Torah, what's not considered clean by Torah. So we understand what our diet should consist of, but it goes so far about pots and pans and plates and spoons, those areas there. And what happens if you have some unclean stuff in it? What are you allowed to clean up and what you can't clean up? So that's and you got a lot of experts in those areas of what you call kashrut. So you might want to talk with some of your teachers in reference to that. And just washing with a soap and water, like I say in the dishwasher and stuff like that, don't work for a great deal of stuff. All right, so now when you talk about the divide of the booty, all right. First of all, they brought back all the women. So I skipped over. And Moses was angry because the Midianites, women were spared. 12,000 men brought back, thousands of people, more than and double their amount, And not only they brought back thousands of people, the cattle alone, you can imagine 12,000 men dealing and bringing all that back. The booty or the spoil, or really the word is used as plunder. And then they're talking about dividing amongst the children, the rest of the children of Israel, and apportioning it to the Levites. And then the officers for atonement. The captains gave up certain things, because they had the obvious plunder and spoil they had that people could see, but they had jewelry and stuff like that. And when they realized that not one of them died in the battle, they offer up as an atonement, because they wasn't intending on giving up maybe this gold ring, this gold bracelet, this beautiful medallion. They figured that was personal, so they didn't take an account for that. And when they realized that nobody died, they wind up giving that up, giving a portion of that up. All right, but what's interesting in this here battle as we go forward is that they didn't have the princes leading the tribe, leading this battle. They had the captain, the officers of each tribe leading the battle. Now, if you're going to avenge the Lord God, and I made this statement before, then shouldn't the Levites participate within that? The Levites was told not to inherit the land on the other side. They was told to protect the sanctuary. Then the Levites set off a turning point of violence in reference to the sin of Baal Peor. And then we know that after this, Moses was supposed to die after the battle of the Midianites. So if he was supposed to die after the battle of Midianites, we know that Joshua was the one to take over. Was Joshua in a hurry to get rid of his teacher? Those are some of the things to consider. Then if you had those 12 tribes plus Levi, it should be like 13,000. So why was only 12,000? And yet Pinchas was the first war priest, as we would call it, in dealing with this situation. So you think he the only one from Levi was out there? And could it be that the tribe of Ephraim, who Joshua was from, decided to stay out of it because it would look like you're trying to hurry up and get rid of their teacher? So, and the Creator gave the amount that should go forward, 12,000 men. So it's not arbitrary. And then it goes on about the Reubenites and Gad. They want to get their inheritance. They don't want to go for it. And then, so this is the first time that Gad superseded out of Reuben and asked for property. They don't want to go into the promised land, to the land of their forefathers, and the land of the covenant. All right, then, you know, you read about the cities that's built there. Then you got the journeys from Marseille. This I want to speak on a little bit more, and, you know, because there's a lot of interesting things I like to highlight in here. All right, then after we deal with the journeys, then it goes on to Canaanites start to be driven out. I mean, we're not supposed to be making any kind of any kind of truce with them. And then it gives you the borders of the land. Then it goes into the inheritance of Reuben, Gad, and half tribe of Manasseh. And then those appointed to divide the land, and the 48 cities given to the Levites. Then it starts to go into concerning the laws concerning manslaughter and murder, which is the, you know, dealing with the cities of refuge. And then as we go further, the last thing we complete in this particular portion would be the inheritance of those 5 daughters of Zelophehad, when they want to get the inheritance of their father on the other side, which caused to have a law written on their behalf. So that sums up those 2 portions on the highlight. So it's a very interesting reading, but also the Sidra, Matot and Marseille is the longest combined Torah reading. You know, out of all the Sidros and stuff like that, it's the longest out of all of them. And when we look at it, you say, well, why is combined? It's always combined during the time or near the time of the 3 weeks before what we refer to as Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the first and the second temple. All right, so it's always combined along that particular period of time. So what we gain out of it is that one of the things in a nutshell, I'm just going to highlight some things in a nutshell, and then I'm going to probe in a little bit deeper. One of the things is that Matos is sticks, rigid. So you got rigid and journeys. So we have a rigid, and sometimes if we use as a metaphor, to be rigid, we're supposed to have solid values. Anybody that, you know, delve into the Torah and claim to be, you know, Israelite, Hebrew, Jewish, whatever you want to call it, and that, in those areas that follow the laws of God, you're supposed to have solid, rigid values. But you got to be flexible. Journeys means to be flexible. We come out of Egypt. Egypt is some, like I said, the root word is in the sense of narrow borders, constriction. Some things you got to be rigid in, and then but it can't be so rigid where you can't adapt to the different times. So when we look at Matos and Marseille, sometimes, and you can't be that flexible where you lose your values. Some people become so flexible and they say they get further and further from the values. And then some people so rigid and rigid and rigid, they can't see certain things going on in time. And those are some of the things we got to realize, that you just can't be that rigid where you can't adapt your values that's God given to the time you're in. You'll be living in one time zone as opposed to moving forward. So sometimes it's good to be rigid, and sometimes you got to be flexible. All right. So now I just want to bring out that this is covering a good deal of the 40-year period when we get to this particular portion. So, and in the book of Numbers, it's up by Midbar. What we have is, I want to focus on the journeys, Masay. And what is questionable, well, I'm just read the beginning of Masay, let's just say, in the 33rd chapter of Numbers. It says, "These are the stages of the children of Israel by which they went forth out of the land of Egypt by their hosts, under the hand of Moses and Aaron. And Moses wrote their goings forth, stage by stage, by the commandment of the Lord, and these are their stages at their going forth." So Moses kept a record of where they were. So we know we had a prophet that wrote not only laws, but kept a journal of the different movements that we had, the different spots. And they journeyed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians, while the Egyptians were burying them that the Lord had smitten amongst them, even all their firstborn upon their gods. Also, the Lord executed judgment, and the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses and pitched in Sukkot. And they journeyed from Sukkot and pitched in Etham, which is in the edge of the wilderness. And they journeyed from Etham and turned back unto Baal-Haroth, which is before Baal-Zephon. And they pitched before Migdol. All right. Now, I want to stop here at Baal-Zephon. So now we got these three little journeys. All right. Journey from Ramses and pitched in Sukkot. And and from Sukkot, Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. And from Etham, the Baal-Haroth, which is before Baal-Zephon. Now 3 stops already. We made three encampments on after the night of the Passover. 3 encampments after that time, and yet we haven't even crossed the Yam Suf. So just giving us some time frame. Now the 3 encampments are talking about, we're still in the land of Egypt. We haven't left the territory of Egypt at this point in time. And then we have this law that says, don't mention the names of the gods that's around you, so, and some people hold it really strong. Then why is this God named, as many other gods that's not really true gods, that's named in scriptures? But Baal-Zephon was one of their deities of Egypt. All right. And it's actually, could be also similar to Baal-Peor. But Baal-Zephon was one of the deities that they worship. And when God had slayed the firstborn of Egypt, did he not slay also the idols, destroy the idols? Then why he had to destroy even the idols and leave this one idol here? Those are some questions you could ask. And then when he destroyed the firstborn of Egypt, why stick around and make those stops along Egyptian territory instead of just going by? And then I always used to say, why would the children, the Egyptians, follow the children of Israel into the Yam Suf? When you see water already piled up on both sides, and they're going across, are going into it, the Yam Suf. I know, for me, I would say they got away. They done got away. It's almost like, most of us that grew up in big urban cities, we know a lot of times in summertime we used to hang up on the rooftop, in the springtime hang on the rooftop, and sometimes the buildings be kind of close to one another. You could jump from one rooftop to the other rooftop. But if the roof is different height, different stories, and the gap look kind of wide, only a few guys would be crazy enough to run and jump from one rooftop to another rooftop. And most of the time, that's when they're trying to get away from, either another gang or either, the police. That, and then they'll and most times when they jump that far, most people say, well, they got away. They ain't gonna take the chance. So what made the Egyptians, after letting their children of Israel go, and make them think and make them make a statement that they're entangled in the land, when all the other idol gods, idols they have is destroyed? God said you're gonna make not only take vengeance upon the firstborn, say the firstborn, but also slay their idols. So it's against their gods as well. Why this one idol god is still there? That's a question to ask. And then why, if we know we got a law that's saying later on that we're not supposed to even mention, why they use this as a reference point that we stood at this face of this particular deity? Why this become a reference point? Lifnei Baal Zephon, before the face of Zephon. And then why the children of Israel stop there? And like if that was their destination. Those are some things that it's worth probing into, and there's a lot of different discussions on it, and it's worthwhile to go into and look into the discussions in reference to why there and why so soon, and why the Egyptians were so bold enough to come after them. And the God had to put a little block at him, for them to spend a night at this particular spot. So those are some of the things to consider. And now, one of the things is, when we talk about the journeys, God told Moses to write down these things. So Moses writing this down, and he make mention of this. What is we being told? What are we supposed to learn from that? One of the things I would venture off while you further discuss it with your teachers is that what will motivate them to go beyond? If you done lost all your firstborn, everybody had somebody that was dead. They destroy all the other idols. That one giant idol, like they say the seven wonders of the world, like the statue of Colossus and all that. That one giant idol got the people that caused you so much problems, as you would think. They caused so much problem that could it be that you look at this and say, oh, that's one God that was able to survive. There's one idol that we worship that he must got some juice. They can't go not a step further because this is the borderline of Egypt. So that God there, he's powerful. We still have our faith. We could do this. And while the children of Israel were so traumatized, not only seeing the Egyptians coming after them, but knowing that they're looking at the idol when they supposed to have gave up worshiping idols. They done sacrificed one of the deities that the Egyptians worship, which was the lamb for Passover. So why now this idol, which is more like a fertility or a red light district, that goes on with that, similar to that about all people. Why that idol there? That we standing there, and that we panic stricken at this particular point, and it's so motivating factor for the Egyptians to come after us. Because God building up their confidence to get more of a greater glory over the Egyptians and the main God that they serve. So those are some of the things to consider and discuss more. Just for the sake of time, I just want to move on and bring out that we got 42 journeys that's enumerated within in here. But are they really journeys or they are really encampments? Because we encamped at these places here, 42, within the period from the Exodus to the time we're getting ready to go across to Jordan. It's 42 stops that we made within that period of the year of the Exodus, from the Exodus to the time we get ready to go into the land. So now these first few stops, we're still in Egypt. So why do they call it journeys? Shouldn't a journey means that I'm traveling, and on the way I'm traveling, I'm seeing this stream, this hilltop, this valley, this mountain? Shouldn't it be something like that I should be able to see in reference to all that? Or, I'm looking at this hilltop, this valley, and this stream. So I should be able to see all that, but I'm not at this particular point in time in the writing. Because it said we left from here and we wind up there. We left from here, we wind up there. So, and actually we're still journeying, we had to travel there. But what is important is what we've seen on the way or when we got to our destination. Those are things for discussion in Marseille. And when we look at it, I just want to just speed it up just a little bit. When we look at it, that we have 14 stops that we did just past Hazaro. 14 stops. The first 14 names that's mentioned here, 14 stops that we have here in Hazaro. Those 14 stops that we have, that is done before we got to Hazaro within the first year. Within the first year. And then, and that's before, actually, not in the first year, but basically before the 40-year bid, I should say, be more accurate. Before the 40-year bid, we had 14 stops we already made, counting the ones I just read. 14 in the order that we have in the book. All right, so now, in the last year, after Aaron's death, we had 8 stops. So we had 14, before the 40-year bid, and we had 8 after Aaron died. And we know Aaron died in the month of, some people say Menachem Ab, but we say Ab, and then he's the only one who has his death recorded in scriptures, the exact date that he died. And we have 8 stops after that. So 14 and the 8 that we have, the other 20 stops is somewhere in between. And we don't know how long that we actually stayed in the majority of those stops, those places. We're not given how long we stayed there. But we know that we did a lot of moving and there was a lot of dying going on. So when we go back into Masa'e, we look at, there's very few commentaries on the history and the spots that we went. Now, we could say we learned some life lessons there, and some things what happened there, but some of the things we don't know what went on. And then what we're doing in all that period of time within basically a 38-year period. So it's a lot to be discussed and a lot to look at. People try to give you a comment, and it's not even explained in scriptures everything that we did in all those different stops. But Moses was told to make a journal. So, and we wasn't wandering in the wilderness, but we never say how long we stayed at each stop. And we know that the cloud will come. We might move in one day, we might move in a week, and we might move in a month, and we might move in a year. So we don't know how long we're going to stay at each individual stop. And can you imagine the comfortability that you'd be really uncomfortable when I don't know when I might have to get up and leave. And then what is interesting is that when I mentioned about the last 8 stops after Aaron's death, we noticed that, and according to tradition as well, but we noticed that the cloud guided us all of other stops, and then afterwards we was asking to get passage through different places and territories to be able to get through to the promised land, to the land of our forefathers, God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I mean, to the land of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, I should say. So when we had that, said, well, Moses, we had a GPS for 40, pretty much a good part of the 40 years in the wilderness. After Aaron died, where was the new GPS? That we made these other 8 trips, 8 stops. So those are some of the things to consider, and why people felt that they could fight with us at this particular point in time. So, and we know Aaron died in the 5th month. We know for sure Moses died somewhere, in the beginning of the 11th month. I mean, let me see, did I get it right? Just make sure. No, excuse me. We know that he died somewhere in the 12th month. In the beginning of the 11th month, he wrote the book of Deuteronomy. I'll make that correction while I'm online now. So, and we got the date when Deuteronomy, when we get ready to go into the book of Deuteronomy, that he's decided to start his writing of the book of Deuteronomy, which is Mishneh Torah, second law. So basically roughly 5 weeks, and we could do the math to figure out that Moses died basically in the 12th month. So you figure between the 5th month and the 11th month, we at the last journey that we here in this year before we get ready to cross over into the land of our ancestors, the land of what they call Canaan, Israel. All right, so I just want to highlight a few things in that area there. There's a lot to be discussed there, and any questions, just leave in the comments. But I know a lot of people don't like to read all this here in reference to that, this period in time. But it's very interesting in that area, especially when you go all this time, and when you get the other tribes like Reuben and Gad that want to stay on the other side. You don't read where Manasseh asked to be on that side. Moses just brought him, gave him to that side. And we know what's interesting, that when it mentioned the people to pick their lots for the tribe, what is interesting is that for the tribe of Yehudah, you had Prince Caleb selecting for that particular tribe. Now, Prince Caleb was not the head prince of the tribe of Yehudah, but he definitely was the oldest man in the tribe of Yehudah. Him and Joshua running there maybe a year or two in difference in age when we do go into the next book of Joshua. So, but he was the one that was selected to pick for the tribe of Yehudah. One reason I would give is he was the only one that was guaranteed a parcel of land prior to the picking of the lottery. He was guaranteed a parcel of land by the Creator from the generation prior to that. So there's a lot of other elements in here. Then, like I said, the daughters will come up with their inheritance with the law of city of refuge. So a lot of people, like I said, just to touch on it, city of refuge is not no dry looking place. It's a hustling and bustling metropolis. And the sense is that you had to have clear roads and clear signs marking the way to the city of refuge. A guy can talk about, well, I don't know which direction to go, east, west, north, or south. He goes to the nearest city of refuge, and the city of refuge is highlighted, and everybody in the city of refuge are not fugitives. You got Levites that live there, you got businesses that's going on there, and anything that's highlighted, a main thoroughway to any city brings commerce and trade. It's just that the people that will come into the spot now, they may not actually live nearby, and they had to run there and get there just to be safe. And suppose you live in one neighborhood of the territory, but the nearest city is in the neighborhood you're working at, which is a long ways from your home. So it would be a lot of a lot of uncomfortability to be there, even though it was a metropolis there. Everything had to be brought to you, could never leave out the city. So imagine, the city of refuge, it would be a burden on the high priest if only it was filled up with fugitives. That means those 3 cities, or 6 cities, as we read about later on, those 6 cities, everybody praying for the priest there, the high priest there. Because if you want to get out and see your family, you locked there, inside a golden cage. So those are some of the things to bring out. And the daughters of Zeal prayer has got their inheritance. So we're going straight to the Psalms. I'm just going to read a little bit. Jeremiah got some interesting stuff on there. So when you get a chance, go over the book of Jeremiah. But I'm going to the Psalms right now. I'm going to go to Psalms 111 first and read some of that. But before I go into Psalm 11, I just want to bring something from Zechariah, the 8th chapter, the 16th verse. And it says, these are the things that you should do. Speak ye every man the truth with his neighbor. Execute the judgment of truth and peace in your gates. I say that because we have the city of refuge, and we had a lot of atrocity going on. I said, why would a person go there? So it's going to be a judgment and stuff in this area. And plus it's going to relate to the Psalm. And it's because also this time of admonishment that we wasn't doing justice. We wasn't doing truth. We was pretty corrupt at this particular time. So we got Psalms 111. We're going to go through that first. Then we go to Psalms. We're going to go through Psalms 29. All right, got it?
We're in the book of Psalms 111, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I will give thanks unto Yehovah with my whole heart, and the counsel of the upright and in the congregation.
Uh-huh.
The works of Yehovah are great, sought out of all them that have delight therein. His work, his glory and majesty, and his righteousness endureth forever. He hath made a memorial for his wonderful works, for Yehovah is gracious and full of compassion. He hath given food unto them that fear him. He will ever be mindful of his covenant. He hath declared to his people the power of his works, and given them the heritage of the nations. The works of his hands are truth and justice. All his precepts are sure.
Hold it right there. Mm-hmm. All right. So now, this is a thing of gratitude for the Most High, because normally, one of the prophecies said, "What wrong have our ancestors seen in him?" When do you have any deity of any doctrine where the God they worship looking for you to find fault in them? This is one of the things that the Creator brings out. And one of the things is that when we think of the book of laws, I would say in the Decalogue or the Sarah Hadibro, the commandments, that he said, "I'm the Lord thy God which brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." So when we look at those areas there, then why start the book off with Bereshit? In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Because we're out the land and say we had to be fortified. What right do we have to claim the land? And so this is one of the things that we need as a people, saying this land belongs to us. Because if everything belongs to the Creator and of his own we give him, then he has the right to designate who qualify to hold down or that parcel of land. And so it's not for discussion in that area. But and he told us what land that we could not take because of the requirements that the land entail. But let's read on. Let's go ahead. We just finished. Up noon.
We're in verse 8.
All right. Yes.
They are established forever and ever.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, all the precepts are true. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Verse 8. Go ahead.
Verse 8. They are established forever and ever. They are done in truth and uprightness. He hath sent redemption unto his people. He hath commanded his covenant forever. Holy and awful is his name. The fear of Yehovah is the beginning of wisdom, a good understanding of all they that do thereafter. His praise endureth forever. Hallelujah.
All right. So you see where Solomon gets some of this instruction at. All right. But we're going to find out what motivated Solomon to even write the next book. You know, because when we read about the Proverbs, so we're going to Psalm 49.
We're in the book of Psalms. Psalms 49. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Lam Naseak, Lifnei Korak.
So it's for the song for the sons of Korah. You know, we know about Korah's ancestry. So this is very interesting that we know about Korah's ancestry, but the children of Korah, that's where God showed mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. And so they're no longer, carrying the holy articles from place to place. I mean, even though David writing this here psalm now, the ark and everything is in one spot. It's not moving like it was prior to the wilderness movement. Continue.
Verse 2. Verse 2 reads, Hear this, all ye peoples, give ear, all ye inhabitants of the world, both low and high, rich and poor. My mouth shall speak wisdom, and the meditation of my heart shall be understanding. I will incline mine ear to a parable. I will open my dark saying upon the heart. Wherefore shall I fear in the days of evil, when the iniquity of my supplanters compasseth me about, of them that trust in their wealth, and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches? No man can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him. For too costly is the redemption of their soul, and must be let alone forever, that he should still live always, that he should not see the pit. For he seeth that wise men die, the fool and the brutish together perish, and leave their wealth to others. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. But man abideth not in honor. He is like the beasts that perish. This is the way of them that are foolish, and of those who after them approve their sayings. Selah.
Okay, now let's look at the beginning of this psalm just a little bit. And he used two terms for man in the psalm, in Psalm 49. Earlier, but I just wanted to get through it a little bit. All right, so when we look at the third verse, in there, both, low and high, rich and poor together, and then it goes on to that. When we're looking into the Psalm 49, it talks about in reference to, they use the term for men in this particular Psalm. As we go further down, let me make sure I got that right. Did I say I did this a minute ago? Oh, okay. A little bit past it. Use the term B'nai Adam and Gam B'nai Ish. So sometimes you might see the sons of Adam and the sons of man in the 49th Psalm here. And when it talks about that, and in the Hebrew language. I just want to point that out because I didn't want to be remiss. Some people, when it says sons of men, son of man, and they use the word ish, that means that you could prove your pedigree. So that's part of the inheritance. It got to be a pedigree. When you say you're Bene Adam, you actually just saying that I know I'm a human being, but I don't know who my parents is. I don't know my father. I don't know my grandfather. I just know I'm human. I just know I'm a mankind. That's it. But Ish, and so to be one of the relationships to the heads of the father's houses, picking lots and stuff like that for their particular tribe. So some books may not, translate it like that, but that's the way it's written in Hebrew. So I had to go back over it just for a moment, make sure I didn't miss that point. All right. So you can continue on, Chief. Sorry to throw you off a little bit, but
nah, it's all right. It's all right. I knew once you got to Salah that you were going to stop. The next verse
15.
is verse 15. Like sheep, they are appointed for the netherworld. Death shall be their shepherd, and the upright shall have dominion over them in the morning. And their form shall be for the netherworld to wear away, that there be no habitation for it.
All right, before we go to the 16th verse.
16th verse.
No, before we go to the 16th verse.
Oh, okay.
All right. Havelim, vanity of vanity. Because now it's going to talk about what you gain in this life. Is it going to be forever? And what do you really build on in this way of life? So when you read this psalm, you see Solomon a little bit perplexed, and that no matter how great I am, and this is what the song going to be talking about, no matter how great I am, I'm going to leave here one day. I'm not going to live here forever. And everything I attain going to be left behind. And is that going to be my legacy? Or what I'm really working for? What I'm really working on? So some people work on, and as we get further into the psalm, let's go on ahead so I could just read it out before I have a glitch. Some people just work and achieve certain wealth and accomplishments, and they will look down on people simply because of their worth and their accomplishments, what they had achieved, and they look the works and accomplishment of monetary buildings, whatever it is, that's an intrinsic value. They look at that as a statement of their greatness. But according to the sons of Korah, it's not a statement of their greatness. According to tradition, their family, the original Korah, was pretty wealthy. That's a tradition. But it's not about real wealth that you develop. It's about the laws of God that develop within you. So instead of, and it's talking about your flesh, when you die, it rots away, but your soul, the real you, the essence of you, that live beyond. We talk about Moses. We talk about Aharon. We talk about some of the great people that really was accomplished in life. And we talk about Abraham, the accomplishments of those guys in life. Though they had their setbacks and stuff like that. Solomon wondered whether he gonna leave his wealth to a wise man or a fool. When Solomon gets down to the end of the Ecclesiastics, he leaves a thing on record, is that fear God, keep his commandments, for that's the whole duty of man. So you're going to live in the moment, but let's finish this out. Read that to 16.
Verse 16 reads, verse 16 reads, but God will redeem my soul from the power of the netherworld, for he shall receive me, Salah.
Keep going.
Be not thou afraid when one waxeth rich, when the wealth of his house is increased. For when he dieth, he shall carry nothing away, his wealth shall not descend after him. Though while he lived, he blessed his soul, men will praise thee when thou shalt do well to thyself. They shall go to the generation of his fathers, they shall never see the light. Man that is in honor understandeth not. He is like the beast that perish. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That means that if you don't understand that you live by the laws of the Creator, and that you benefit from it. It's when we don't see the benefit from the laws of the Creator. And the only way we can understand it is like me trying to explain what Shabbat do for you. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't see nothing. I'm just going to relax. I don't see the problem about Shabbat, observing Shabbat. I mean, I don't see where it benefits you. But it's doing it and going through it, certain experiences, you can't really share with another individual. They got to go through an experience. Many people learn and take a written test to get a learner's permit to drive. And they know the rules of the world. And they know that they need a key, or these days a keyless entry, and so they need a key in their pocket to push a button, you know, to make the car start up. Not a clue how it's actually working underneath the hood. And they get out there in the street. They know about red lights. They know about green lights. They know about stop. They know about go. They know about the gas pedal. They know about the brake. And all that, they still won't be able to drive until they get in the car, because many times they're not. Many people fail that road test. So that's the same thing when we observe law and Torah, eating a certain way, observing these certain days. A person that don't see value in it cannot really, that doesn't participate in it, will not understand the true value we have in it. So with that, I'm gonna end right here. So as we go through these 3 weeks of admonishments, because we just went through the second week and we got one more week to go, you got 7 weeks of comfort. So we try to develop ourselves and consider more of what God did for us and how we could stop a lot more idle talk and try to improve ourselves in our practices. So with that, I hope you got something out of what I said. Any mistakes been my own. And support the D.C.B channel, leave the comments there, and I'll try to address them the best I can. All right.
Okay, there's a question here from a J Don Israel 846. This was sent on the last show that was broadcasted. Shalom, Nasik. Thank you for your teachings. I've been listening to this show for a few years. My question is, in the Parasha Maaseh, in Numbers 35, if the avenger finds the accused of murder, or I guess of accidentally killing, or
Yes.
before the accused reaches the city of refuge, does the accused have the right to defend themselves? Torah.
Okay. Now I answer that. That's why I addressed that in the beginning of my talk. And definitely, it's only going to be natural for him to defend himself.
Oh, you saw the question.
Yes, because he's entitled to due process. And I gave them a scenario earlier about a guy figure I'm big, I don't need to go in there, I can handle the family, or whatever the case is, then he would be in violation because it'd be a premeditated thing, because he know he would have to defend, his life. He's supposed to go to the city, which is part of the law, because he took a life, and go through the trial, and then he must stay there, which is part of the law. Anything else outside of that, it'd be a premeditated move on his part. And then we got to believe in the power of the Creator. So that's pretty much it.
Hallelujah. Torah Abba Nasik, thank you for your insight and your wisdom. May the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, continue to bless you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And shalom to everyone else.
Yeah.